All right. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Friday Morning Fuel. I'm Coach Matt, your program manager for Power Fitness Center. Today, we've got a few things already getting going just because I want to make sure we have time for everything. I do have some ground beef in the pan here, just browning up. Today, we're going to be making a spring roll bowl with the main focus of gut health. Today, we're going to be talking about gut health and how what you eat affects the inside of your body, which seems pretty straightforward, but there's a few things I want to cover today. So again, we're going to go ahead and kind of get some things started, and then we'll kind of chat on the way. Like I said, some ground beef going in the pan. Normally, I would do this recipe in one pan, but again, just for the sake of time, I'm going to kind of get things a few different places. So we do have some water boiling over here. There's a little steamer basket in there. I'm going to steam some broccoli. So this is going to be just like a spring roll that you would get from a restaurant, but it's going to be in a bowl. There's going to be a lot of it. We're not going to necessarily have I'm not exactly sure what the wrap of a spring roll is. We're not going to have that part, but it's going to be like a burrito bowl, like a naked burrito bowl, but a little bit different ingredients on the inside. So we're going to get these broccolis chopped up relatively small. We're not going to put this whole head in there, but we're just going to pull off a handful of these, and we'll make this a little bit smaller, kind of bite-sized pieces, what we're looking for. They won't, not going to shrink too much in the pan here. But yeah, so gut health, hugely important. It is April. Welcome to April. No jokes for you this morning, just lots of education and some good stuff. So again, we got some steam going on in there. We're going to throw all of this in our little steamer basket. I'll probably make a little bit more of that. And I'm eyeballing a lot of stuff. Once you make some a handful of times, it's all about eyesight. Welcome those just jumping in. We got some ground beef going, some broccoli going. All right. I feel like at this point, I'll just go ahead and put the whole thing in. We can always choose to add it or not, and then we'll have some broccoli for some other meals. It's a good way to kind of look at it. A little bit of meal prep going in on that as well. Gonna take the time to only cook once, and then you've got it when you need it. I'm gonna take a few of these scraps, throw those in there, kind of clean down the board. Beautiful. Again, we'll kind of let that steam away for, I don't know, 8 minutes or so, and we'll kind of take a look at it from there. So super easy recipe. Again, you can kind of usually do this in one pan. My ground beef here was still a little cold from the freezer last night, so I went ahead and got that a little head start just to make sure it kind of finished on time. So big thing I want to talk about, like I said, gut health. So a lot of times we don't understand that, it may have not occurred to us before that the foods that we eat cause inflammation, right? Inflammation inside of our gut. So you think about inflammation like if you roll your ankle and you swell up, and that's inflammation, right? So it's a way of inflaming that joint to help protect it as the body's natural response. So usually some kind of trauma or injury or something happened to that place to cause inflammation. It's a way of healing it, getting blood flow in there, and that's kind of what the swelling is. It's just an increased blood flow, but there's also a lot of damaged tissue in there as well that we want to repair and kind of get all that junk out of there. So with gut inflammation, it's very similar to the same thing, right? So there's an issue, there's some kind of trauma around the gut, and it causes swelling, and that can manifest itself in bloating, discomfort, lack of energy, fatigue, anything like that. A lot of the things that we may attribute to just a long day, stress, et cetera, it could come from your food. Not guaranteed, but it could come from it. So we know a lot of things that can kind of cause inflammation. That's pretty standard across most people. And that's highly processed things, right? Stuff that has a lot of chemicals in it, kind of normal culprits. But today we're going to kind of talk about some specifics that you may not have heard of before. I want to dive in a little bit into food sensitivities. I'm going to throw some salt in here. We're going to kind of mildly season this just with a few different things. I'm not going to overdo it. So we'll throw some salt in there, some good old pink Himalayan sea salt. So food sensitivities. A lot of times, we have a good idea of what we are allergic to, right? Some people can't do shellfish or peanuts or dairy. Those are food insensitivities or extremely allergies. But there's a lot of things, too, that we have more mild sensitivities for that we may not be totally aware of. And so those things are kind of causing a lot of that gut inflammation and causing those problems that, again, might be so mild that we just don't necessarily attribute it to our food. So there's a few different ways to kind of find out what those sensitivities are. Of course, there's like the, scientific prick tests and all that. But just kind of paying attention to what's going on is helpful as well. I'm going to go ahead and dice up some onion and toss that in there. I don't want the onions to be like super soggy. I do like a little crispness on them. So kind of wait till that ground beef is most of the way done before we toss in that onion. So like I said, kind of just paying attention to what you're eating. And taking note of how you feel after you eat that. All right. So usually digestion takes anywhere from 1 to maybe 4 hours, depending on your system. And so after that time, just not even paying attention just directly after you eat something, but also a few hours down the line just to see what that response is. So kind of a common thing, at Thanksgiving. Right, we tend to eat a lot, and we kind of attribute the sluggishness, the tiredness to the tryptophan of the turkey, right? That kind of sleepy drug. But we don't always attribute it to the fact that we just ate a bunch, right? And your body uses energy to digest food. So it's pretty kind of putting two and two together there. That a lot of food takes a lot of energy, and you don't have a whole lot of energy for the rest of the body for the rest of the evening. So same kind of idea. It's a little bit kind of a slower process. You may realize that a little bit more later than directly post meal. So as you eat, kind of pay attention to how those foods respond to you. There is a few different diets. Have you ever heard of an elimination diet? It's a way to kind of test some of these sensitivities. So the one I'm most familiar with is called the AIP protocol, the autoimmune paleo protocol. And so there's a way of kind of taking out everything that has been commonly associated with sensitivities, kind of finding a baseline in terms of, kind of going on a pretty clear, easy diet with not a lot of variety in it, and then slowly introducing foods back in, kind of see how they affect you. If there's nothing, you take it back out. If it's nothing, you keep it in. If something happens, you take it back out. And that way we can kind of attribute some of the characteristics of our symptoms, our fatigue, our inflammation, things like that, to those specific foods. So this is not a process that you necessarily do overnight. I'm throwing some garlic and ginger in here as well to help with some seasoning. A little bit of flavor. Microplane, super, super useful tool. We're just going to put the garlic on there straight up. I'm going to peel it. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I'm going to put 2 cloves in there. If you like a little spicier, feel free to do more. Same thing with the ginger. We're going to grate, end of a thumb length. I feel like it's very difficult to measure ginger. But I feel like when it's too much. So just put enough. Fell off track there. Cool. So ginger in there, garlic in there. Lovely. We'll toss that around. But cool. So introducing foods back in to kind of find some of those sensitivities. We're looking good. I'll turn that heat down a little bit, kind of let that sit. The broccoli's going to catch up. We're going to toss that in. We're going to start throwing everything else in here as well. We've got some mushrooms. If you're not a mushroom person, recommend trying them out. Cut them very, very small, because most of the people, it's a texture issue. I'm going to rinse these off real quick. But mushrooms are great for your brain. Highly recommend getting those in one way or another. It doesn't have to be a lot of them. But I'm just gonna make these really, really small and throw it in there just so you can kind of see what we're looking at. But like I was saying, yeah, you kind of introduce foods back in, see how they affect you, and then you have an idea of if you're sensitive to that or not, right? It doesn't always have to be a full-blown allergy, right? You know, if you're, most people are familiar with lactose intolerance, right? But again, that's a form of sensitivity, and it doesn't always have to be that extreme. Cool. And it could just be an issue of the volume of that food that you eat. So, for example, if you are like gluten is a pretty common sensitivity, right? So you may be able to have, a cookie and you feel good about it. But then if you were to eat 6 cookies, you probably don't feel like that is great, right? Could be the gluten, could be the sugar, could be a lot of different things. But the point remains is that it's sometimes the volume of that food in terms of how much you take in of that sensitivity across a span of time, right? So, let's see, we're going to get this all mixed up. And we are looking good, getting close. Broccoli is looking pretty good. I'm going to test. Oh yeah, that's soft. So we're gonna toss that broccoli in to our main pot here. I'm going to spoon it in because I don't want to. It's very hot and there's water in it, so I don't want to pour it in. But anyways, we're going to mix this in. So sensitivities, like I said, sometimes it's just the volume that we eat. If you've never done an elimination diet and you feel like you feel like you just can't win with your food, you feel like you're eating all the right things and you still don't feel great, it may be worth it to try to identify some of those sensitivities. Just some more common ones that you may not be aware of. Again, kind of following that AIP protocol. So nightshades are sometimes problematic for people. That includes bell peppers, white potatoes, eggplant. There's like one more big one, but nightshades are a big one. Tomatoes, I think, and so stuff that you think like, oh, these are vegetables, like these are fine, I should be good with them, but sometimes people are not, and that's totally fine. Everybody is a very unique individual. There's a lot of food options out there. We kind of express diversifying your food intake, and that's kind of one reason to do so. Carrot, we're just going to grate this carrot in there. Let's see, nightshades, soy is a problem for some people, right? Eggs are a problem sometimes. We talked about gluten sensitivities, dairy, pretty obvious. Nuts, shellfish, those kind of things. So, and you ask yourself, what's left? What am I supposed to eat then? So usually any lean meat, pretty quality, chicken, beef, pork, lamb, all that usually pretty good for most people. And then finding a lot of alternatives. So, elimination diets are a lot easier these days than they were even 5 years ago. But with the kind of health food industry boom, I know my wife has done AIP protocol the whole 3 months several times, and the first time she did it was basically just chicken, sweet potatoes, and broccoli pretty much the whole time. But nowadays with they've got flours out of everything, and so you can have pasta again, be it, they have sweet potato pasta, cassava pasta, which is great. A few other things. Obviously there's brown rice pasta, quinoa pasta, all those things, but with that kind of sensitivity, all the grains with rice and quinoa and things like that are sometimes difficult causing some of that inflammation as well. All right. So usually kind of throw some cabbage in here. Of course, the day that I need to present this, we don't have cabbage, so I'm gonna use spinach, and we'll do our best here. So hopefully you can tell it's starting to look a bit like a spring roll there. So we've got that going. I'll get some cabbage. Some spinach. We'll throw that in there. So I'm just gonna slice this out real thin, just like you would some cabbage. But as I was saying, you know, a lot of substitutes, some varieties of foods exist nowadays. So I highly recommend taking a look at, you know, other parts of the grocery store that you may not normally visit, and kind of see what other options there are for some of the foods that you commonly eat. So like I said, you know, kind of getting aware of what foods may cause sensitivities, and it doesn't always mean that you have to cut that, you know, that item out completely, but rather finding something that could be a suitable substitute that doesn't cause you the same kind of discomfort, right? Ideally, it still has a similar nutritional profile. But yeah, it's, you know, cooking is an exploration, right? So there's a lot of different ways. If you kind of keep staying on that same path, no one always knows out there. You know, you can get comfortable, and that's totally fine. You know, but sometimes you like to explore a little bit. You know, if you're one that doesn't like to eat the same thing all the time, you got to branch out. You got to see what else is out there. You know, you go to a restaurant, you've got a big menu of, you know, 50 different items. You know, you could get the same thing every time. You know what you're getting, and that's totally fine too. But sometimes it's fun to explore and see what else is out there. So, not really your homework, but what I recommend this weekend, next week, whenever you go grocery shopping again, go down an aisle that you don't normally go down, and kind of look at those other items that are that you kind of pass over most of the time, and just see what's there. You don't have to buy anything, but just take a look. Last week I found there was pickled cactus, so very interested in seeing what that's about, and kind of finding out how to use that. So we are pretty much done here. We're going to pop this into our serving dish, and then I'm going to throw a little coconut aminos on there as a, oops, lost the broccoli, as a little bit of extra sauce flavoring. There you go. Boom, here you go. Coconut aminos is just a soy sauce alternative, as we were saying. But again, like I said, soy is a sensitivity for some people. So this is a super solid substitute. I did see that they have a kelp version of this as well, kind of using, you know, kelp, like seaweed, which has that kind of salty salty like umami flavor on it, which is often very, very good. So there you have it. There is your what do we call this? Your spring roll bowl. Beautiful for you. Like I said, easy to make in a big batch to use throughout the week, or if you're serving for a few people. I hope you learned something today about food sensitivities, gut health. You know, kind of how to make yourself feel better, a little bit more energized through the food selections that you make. You know, trying to stay away from the foods that are highly processed, that have a bunch of kind of common sensitivities, and maybe doing a little experiment for yourself and seeing what you personally are sensitive to, and then try to find some suitable replacements for that, so you can still enjoy the foods that you enjoy, but maybe just a healthier option just in general, as well as for your own body. All right. Secret to life is paying attention, right? So thank you all for joining this month's Friday Morning Fuel. I'm Coach Matt. We'll be back next month for some more fun. All right. We hope to see you then, and enjoy the rest of your day.